Treasurer's report?
Okay, I have a bunch of things because I don't know if we are planning to meet another time before fiscal year ends. It ends on June 30th. As of now, well, no, as of May 31st, we have $1,471.99 left in our budget. However, I submitted a payable right around then, right before that report was processed, for a Spectrum bill, and also for the sign. Last meeting, you all voted to reimburse me for the sign for the Historical Museum. So I ran that through. That gets us to about $1,310 that we have left. However, I'll need to pay one more internet bill, which gets us to $1,211. And then as hopefully everybody knows, and Rebecca and I have discussed coming up with a better process for this, but jointly with the Historical Society, we did, Michael requested purchasing a camera with a special flash, if you will, that allows for us with the Historical Society to take pictures of the rural cemetery, not the rural cemetery, the old burial ground, where we're losing a lot of the etchings on the stones. In addition to that, as you know, you guys know, when we go on demo, checking out houses for demo delays, demo permits and stuff, it would be nice for us to be able to have access to the camera to do that as well. I did request from Michael that he write me a letter from the Historical Society on Historical Society letterhead, so that I will just keep it for our records, that it's going to be used between the Historical Society and the Historical Commission. It did come to $849.85. So I just want approval from people to reimburse Michael for that. I will say also, typically this time of the year, we've had in the past couple of years when I've been treasurer, we've had money left over, and the past 2 years, we as a commission have allowed the Historical Society to use that for various archival materials that tend to be quite pricey. It still leaves us with $361, which brings me to, we can discuss a little bit later, is the potential maybe of nominating and purchasing a few of the historical signs to gift to people. And I figured, because we're in a budget crisis because of COVID-19, even with us gifting 3 signs, which I think would be nice, we would still have about $169 to give back to the town, which if we refer to the budget, Brian Ballantyne, the budget, that if it gets approved, that there's going to be a 2% budget cut across the board, that's only $33 to our budget. So the fact that we would give back 169, I think is a nice thing to do. And I think it's sort of good optics for the Historical Commission. If we decided to buy 4 signs, it would still allow us to give back $105. So I don't know if you want to wait to talk about the signs until later, but
yeah, let's
definitely talk about the camera purchase.
Yeah.
And if everybody approves of that, so I can submit the payable for reimbursement.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Rebecca and I thought that it's a good idea to come up with a formal process, even if it's as simple as a letter, if we have budget money and if the Historical Society, for example, has projects, that if they ahead of time submit a letter to us so that we can plan accordingly with some of our budget money, I think that's a good process to follow.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, that was long-winded and I'm done now. Sorry.
So yes, I think, the camera is something that we will definitely need for the demo delay and
We've talked about it for the past couple of years
Yeah.
too, so I,
a shared resource for both organizations with, seems like a good thing. So yes. Should we vote in favor of that reimbursement?
I think we should. We typically vote on the expenditures, and especially because this is a larger one. And like I said, I think last year, I think we spent at least $1,200 on archival supplies, and
Sure.
at least that much. I think it was 1,000 the year before for the society. So there's, there's history there of that's something that we do in working with the Historical Society.
Right.
So,
I saw the results that were sent around, with the special
Yeah.
flash, and it really does, bring
It's
out the
amazing.
detail. It's
Yeah.
hard, just as a, I don't want this to be part of the record, but off the record, it's hard to imagine a camera with a flash costing a lot of money. But on the other hand, we've got the budget, and I'm perfectly okay. Michael made a good choice, I'm sure.
Yeah, the camera was just about 700. And it actually is kind of a base model. It's one actually that I bought,
And
similar
yes,
one I bought for my daughter.
Hmm.
But we did get, in addition, the light box was just under 100. And then there is an accident protection plan for about $58, just because, for example, my daughter Olivia is going to help with that project, volunteer to take some of those photos. And if it weren't necessarily my daughter or somebody else, I think it's a good idea for us to have that protection plan
Yeah, great.
as well.
I
So,
think
The results are very much worth it.
I
they
agree.
are. And also for some of these homes, if it ends up that they are demolished, this will be the last record we'll have.
Yeah.
So it's important to get good quality photos. And Kate Madison was the person who took care of that for us.
Yeah. Like I have some and they're still on my iPhone because I haven't gotten them printed out.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to store them elsewhere.
Yep. So I think it's great to document it. Now I'm also, I think it's also administrative to say that whatever remainder we have after the signs, I think I would be fully in favor of returning to the town. It makes sense when things are tough. So.
And it's a nice portion of our budget. Like I said, if you consider that they're knocking the budget down potentially 2% across the board, which is only $33 for us, and for us to give back anywhere between 169 to 105, whatever we all decide on during this meeting. And and I have to get all this stuff submitted by like July 1st or 2nd. So I preferred if we could vote on it all tonight so I can move forward.
Any discussion on giving back the remainder?
This may be just a newcomer's question, from the corporate world, that's an anathema. You don't want to give money back because it kind of sets a lower baseline for next year. Has the town got a history of that? Is there any risk doing that?
Yes, our budget was initially was $3,500, and last year they cut us to $2,500.
Right, I know that. That's why I'm saying if you now come in at around 2,250 or something, is it we reestablishing what our budget's going to be?
I know. So that is the debate. That's why I would suggest maybe we buy 4 signs and we only give back 105, because then that at least, and I could say that in the email in the form, and I do know accounting, the women in accounting very well, that I would say we thought it was important, to do this because of the budget crisis.
Right.
We can find plenty of ways to spend that money.
Yeah. Extra, extraordinary circumstances, whatever, not that $100 is going to make a huge difference to the town.
Again, I'm playing too much of a corporate finance person here, but if we go through the discussion tonight about the new historic house recognition and came up with a list of, I'm making this up, 10 houses, should we pre-buy 10, commemorative signs? See where I'm going with this? Should we spend it down on the basis of some real identified target property?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's legitimate too. So I'm open to whatever we had, $5 of back to the town.
Yeah. Like I said, so we could, our budget would allow for us left to only buy 5. And then we would have a little bit left over to give to the town.
Okay.
Because the signs are $64 now. Let me do my math.
Joe, you have any thoughts on best practice here?
No, not at this time.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
I did, consult with someone on this also. To get a little feedback on whether it seemed like a good idea.
So we could get, I mean, if we decided to do that, we could get and basically buy 5 signs. And then that still allows us to give about $44 back, which if it's that 2% budget is 33, that might be a better thing to do. Cause then we're honoring that 2% increase without just giving our money.
Voluntarily, yeah.
And because I know from my work with, the planning board and stuff too, it's similar. That budget's been approved and, they have a lot of ways in which they need to use it. And we certainly could spend it, and we're very careful about how we spend it because we have a pretty small budget too, so.
I think it would be helpful, and this can come actually at the end, the discussions of objectives for the next coming year, but in terms of planning projects, I would also kind of like to plan a budget along with that so that we
Yes.
know what we're going to spend when and
Agreed.
have a slightly better sense of that.
Yep, I agree.
Guess we make a motion to approve the reimbursement to the Southborough Historical Society
Mhm.
for the purchase of a camera, which will be shared with the society and the Historical Commission. Shared use.
A second?
Second, because I'm the treasurer. Thank you.
So I guess we'll do the roll call of the vote. Kate Battles,
Aye.
Amanda Gleason,
Aye.
Bill Hubley,
Probably aye.
and Jim Blaschke.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Do you want to talk about the signs and vote on that? And then
Second.
we can determine how much we're gonna give
Sure,
back to
let's do
the
that.
town.
Let's do that.
So I did talk to my neighbor Heather across the street. You guys all know she ran the house tour with me. And she does not have a sign. It's on her long to-do list. She lives in a big old historical house, one of the Samhain houses. And she's spending a lot of time and money renovating it. And I know that she is interested in the signs and I spoke with her. So as a way of thanking her for all the money that she helped raise for the Historical Society on the house tour, I thought that she would be somebody I'd enjoy nominating for to give one of the signs to. She's my sort of first person on my list. Anybody else?
I think before we get into the specific, who gets them, we could maybe come up with an overarching goal for this, giving why we're doing this, why we're recognizing homeowners in town who have gone above and beyond to restore a historical home, whether it's a home actually or a business.
Yep.
Just to show our appreciation and recognition of it. Does that?
Absolutely. I
Describe.
think a great way to, to thank people. I think the signs are lovely. Not everybody's always aware of the sign program either.
So what I feel like is we should maybe announce it on my Southborough or something with a small press release and say that we would be, nominating X number of homes. Should we set a limit
I think that's a great idea.
and give signs to these homeowners if they want them?
I was going to add that, and I was going to seek this out tonight, is if we could, if they haven't written it down, come up with some criteria for
Yeah.
what qualifies, and then that way you
Yeah.
publish that too, is they were looking for homes that have A, B, C, and D,
Love
and
that.
maybe E. Minimum age, maybe some level of restoration, significance. I'm not sure what the parameters would be.
So they have to be 1925 or older.
Mhm.
Anyway, But I think that's a great idea.
Some, things that have been lovingly restored or maintained, people who've been doing it for years, and
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a new project, although, I can think of definitely one.
It's a historical participation, that it was a particular, location that had some, small point in history a factor?
It could be, but I don't know if it should be necessary,
Hmm. Right, no, just as an additional bonus.
So someone should draft the criteria.
We can certainly work on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can work on that and get some ideas down, but I would definitely need some feedback and some help on it.
I'll be happy to add to it if you want to start with the scratch outline.
That's great.
Yeah, I can work on that too.
All right, cool. That'd be
And-
great.
Set number, do we want to say 5 because we have the money for 5 this year?
Well, I was gonna say, maybe for this fiscal year, we can get the 5.
Okay,
And, we can decide among us maybe 5 that we want to do, and then going, just because the year ends.
Mhm.
But then maybe going forward, decide how many we want to do.
Right.
They're $64 each. Remember, our budget is only $2,500, and as of now, we do spend $100 a month on internet. So
Our discretionary money is in the neighborhood of $1,200 a year
yeah,
after expenses.
yeah. Because we
I
pay
mean-
water too.
Yeah, I mean, you could, as part of the discussion for the coming year, you could also say we're going to do another 5 and then announce a program for 10 if we felt comfortable that, defining another 5 signs out of the next year's budget was a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd probably start with 5, and then we can say, and, should budget allow? It could be more.
yeah, or the 5 could be for this fiscal year and then the 5 for next when we, so we could announce, and also at the same time as announcing this, announce the 5 that we've selected.
Oh, that's nice.
If people are comfortable being
Yeah.
in
Right.
it.
Yes,
We should,
We'll have to talk to the homeowners
of course,
Yeah.
and get their permission.
of course. I think that's a great idea. Well, I can work on that. I'll get cracking on that.
That sounds great. So, and there were properties that people have in mind? Did we discuss that tonight or?
I came up with a couple, but why don't we put the criteria together and then I won't be throwing a flyer out that may not match.
Okay, I will, the only problem is I have to, I'm just trying to think of how I have to pay for it all by like July 1st or 2nd.
Right, that's why I was wondering if we should,
Does that mean you've got to have the home designated so that they can make the sign?
Well, yes, because the gentleman that we use is sort of a one-man operation. I'm sure I could call him and say, but I'll have to like, either that or I could write him a check for the 5 signs.
He could
And
invoice you, Kate, for 5,
he could invoice me.
and
for
then
5.
decrement down as you actually give them the details.
Yeah, that's true. I could do that. I can talk to him about that. And if for some reason there's like a big problem with that, we could have like a quick emergency meeting before fiscal year ends.
I guarantee you, we will be meeting again in June.
Okay. All right, I'll have him do that. I'll have him invoice me for 5, and that way we can work on writing up the criteria and all that stuff. I think that's a great idea.
All right,
So I guess
Awesome.
one of us needs to move to approve the purchase of 5 signs.
Yeah,
Any second?
second. Okay, well, roll call again. I'm going to start on the other side. Jim Blaschke,
All right.
Joe Headley,
All right,
Amanda Gleason,
aye.
Kate Battles,
aye.
and Rebecca Deansborough, aye.
Awesome.
Who seconded that?
Rebecca.
Who,
I think,
Okay.
Jim made the motion.
I made the motion.
and I
Jim
think,
made the motion. Yep, okay.
Okay, good, I'm done.
in terms of the, well, I guess we'll get to that in planning for that, but well, no, because we already mentioned it. Let's just, in terms of coming up with a process for people to submit to be reimbursed or to get funds in some way. It might not just be the Historical Commission. If there's some other thing that aligns with what we could have like a period of time during which people can apply for what they might want, and a form,
ABC does.
a very, very short form to fill in on the website or something, and handle it that way. But I guess we can draft something before the next, well, not necessarily the meeting in June, but maybe for the,
But this is sort of the start of the like
Yeah.
September-ish, you know,
Yeah,
when
I don't
it
know.
starts
Yeah.
happening again.
July and August.
Mhm. I think that's a great idea. And it
Okay.
can be just something simple, and then a simple form, and then if people send in, like Michael did, a letter on, you know, their letterhead or whatever from whatever
Mhm.
organization they're from. Just a good process for us to have.
A formal request.
Yeah.
and- Yeah. So 12 Walker Road update. I spoke with George Stagno, who was the person we were dealing with, because he had some concerns about what to do next. He does not recall receiving the action plan, and I think because of the transition and everything, there's some confusion about whether we sent him the action plan. So in any event, I spoke to him and he said that they will get a contractor's report for us and a letter from the pastor stating what the plans are for the land, the lot, when the house is down. And then we will continue the hearing, hopefully as quickly as he can get that report. And I'm kind of hoping it will be in June. Pick a date for a public hearing and review that report and then make a decision based on that regarding whether to keep going for the 9 months or not. Knowing that, as we said, Joe and I toured that house and it was in very, very rough shape. So does that seem reasonable that we will, I will follow up with George and let him know, what is needed in the contractor's report and get an idea of when he can provide it. And then we will go ahead and set the public hearing.
Sounds great.
And then we may or may not have a short meeting after that as the last one before the summer.
Sounds good to me.
Any comment on that, Joe?
No, you covered it.
Okay. Let's see. We talked about the historic recognition.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I will add one thing that just came to mind. The discussion revolved around what actually is the plan for the diocese with that property.
Right.
We just don't want to see it torn down and a vacant lot, although that there's nothing to prevent that from happening. However, I just think that I don't know how the housing, the situation is with the housing, whether they have money to renovate something like that. I can't imagine that would be, and I can't imagine that it would be difficult to do if the people committed to turn that building into housing. If that's something that the church wanted to let go. I just can't see it. Structurally, the house is sound. It just needs to be, well, it needs a kitchen and some updating.
Mold
It's
remediation.
got mold remediation. But still, it's housing nonetheless. So I don't know who was going to look into that, but I can't recall at this time who was gonna look into that, but I think
Shopsy-
that,
Joe Shopsy was interested in it, and there's a member on Shopsy who's also on the finance committee at St. Anne's. And I know they were trying to talk to George and Father Albert about it. But I still think that they decided that it was cost prohibitive, but I don't know for a fact, but that's sort of some of what.
well, I think Shopsy could do their own appraisal on it and see if it's worth, you know. I mean, I'm not sure that the church, the way it was indicated to us is they wanted to make it for parking.
Right.
Correct. George said that they would provide a letter to that effect.
Yeah.
But
That's all I have.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, and Shopsy is aware of it. So I'm sure that they're trying to do some investigating there, because especially because they're getting ready to approve the new like housing production plan. And it's incredibly evident after doing this that there's currently like no rental properties available in Southborough. There's very few what would be considered affordable housing. So I know that they're interested, but I don't know if that means that it'll come to fruition that they'll somehow purchase and renovate that property. I think the diocese wants to keep whatever property that they have. But again, I'm just.
so I guess,
Well, I think that avenue should be, I think we should explore that.
Okay.
Or at least someone make a phone call and get it on record that we did, notify them that that's something they might want to look into that. We can't change the diocese's mind if they want to make it a parking lot, but maybe they
Right.
don't. Maybe they just want to get rid of it.
Yeah, I would offer to send that email, but because I'm their recording secretary, I don't think it's a great idea. But I would say maybe one of you, if people would send one to, it's just Dorianne, and maybe you could, just send it to Dorianne. You could probably copy Karina, town planner, just to say that we've discussed it. Of course, we understand that the house is in, really rough shape, but that perhaps Shopsy would be interested in rehabilitating that, purchasing that home and then rehabbing it. And I know that there's money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, so.
That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Joe.
I mean, I guess it's an interesting question to me, like how on a house that,
Well, they could have, so Rebecca, just from sitting in on those meetings, they have dealt with houses in that kind of shape, and they usually have like Habitat for Humanity will come in and fix it.
sure, yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I don't know if they'll go for it, but it's probably, like Joe says, it's probably good for us to have on the record that we made that
I agree.
suggestion.
So I think, all the bases will be covered and.
Agreed.
I have no doubt.
This is a question out of ignorance, but is the current owner related to the diocese, or what's the connection there?
No,
Yeah.
the church, a number of years ago bought that property when I was actually on the finance committee at the time with a previous pastor. There was discussion about the fact that, or the potential that the two parishes in Southborough were going to get combined into
Right.
one, and that it was going to be at St. Anne's because they have a bigger piece of property. And they had bought that piece of property when maybe the elderly owners passed away. I can't remember, but it was probably about 8 to 10 years ago that the church bought that house to sort of increase their footprint.
The Rileys own that.
What'd you say?
The Rileys own that.
So the church sold it to the Rileys, Joe?
No, Rileys, I think, sold it to the church.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict what church going is going to be like and how much parking they're going to need, and all
Oh,
that
that's
too.
it.
So,
Yeah. As that is, it's a pretty small.
It's a long shot, but it's worth throwing it out there, that's all.
It is, and it's just good for us to have that on record, that we talked to, just threw that idea out at Chopsy.
Because once they're down, they're down.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, although from the exterior of that home, it's almost impossible to tell, like, that it is even on the historic, the list. You know, I mean, on the survey, there's nothing
Special.
Yeah.
special about it, other than that it does qualify, by,
But even from like a separate issue from the affordable housing in this town, it could be a really nice opportunity.
Right.
it is, it's a nice location for somebody to,
Yeah.
all right, so I will follow up with Dorianne, and I will follow up with George. And I will follow up with a plan for requesting, a formal process for requesting funds from historical. And it looks like Kate and Amanda and Jim will work on the criteria for the historic home recognition project.
I'll try to work on that within the next day or two, you guys, and give you some ideas of what I've got.
Okay.
Rebecca, if you want, I can lend a hand also on the coming up with a process for submitting
That'd be great.
applications for funds.
Super.
Yeah.
And once we have the criteria, we can, well, once we select the homes, then we'll worry about the press release, I guess. So and then, beyond that, as I said, I'd like to have some planning at the next meeting, begin planning. So thinking about projects that we might want to take on, given our limited budget, or something that we might want to bring to town meeting. I think we need to try to think ahead for the year. Although given the transition and everything, I wouldn't want to bite off more than we can manage.
Yes.
So that's my thinking on it. I don't know if anyone else already has some big
Rebecca,
plans.
I gotta step out a minute, but I'll be back.
Already,
But
Joe.
one thing I wanted to make, one thing I wanted to, is we really need to update that survey.
Yeah.
That's something that really needs to be done.
It does.
So,
I just don't know about.
That should be a main project for the historical commission.
Yeah, and that's something we'll have to go to town meeting for funding, right?
Exactly.
Right, and I think we've got to kind of read the mood of the town in the coming year and see how
Yeah.
it goes. Because it will depend how long it takes to recover from
Yeah.
this financially.
Great.
Does anyone else have anything?
Just curious for one sentence description of the survey that Joe mentioned.
So Mass Historical has a list of historic homes, and I think we paid people to write up a survey that we use in Southborough that gives a listing of all of the historic homes and as much history as we have, as much details, and we can make sure you have a copy of that, Jim.
Okay.
But it was done. When was it done? When was it revised? I don't even remember.
I wasn't around.
I mean,
So it's been at least,
before Kate.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a fairly complete register at the time, or there's gaps? I mean, when Joe says it ought to be updated, what are we trying to correct?
I think there might be gaps. There are houses that were on it that are gone, I would assume.
Okay.
Right.
I think another important issue that we want to update or that we want to look at is with the demo delay bylaw, having a rolling date instead of a fixed date for the
Yeah.
cutoff. Because
It's gonna change from 1925, yeah. Yeah.
Why is there a certain date every year, and then if you miss the date, you're screwed for a year?
Well, right now it's that if your house is pre-1925, it qualifies as historical.
Right.
But in 50 years, a lot of houses that are historical will not be
Listed.
listed and included.
Right.
Or included, right?
Yeah, if we don't change that so that it's houses that are, I don't, at least X years old, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Oh, that's the rolling date, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what do we do about the application that we saw for somebody who wants to join the commission?
Oh, right, right. I think we should, well, I would write a letter of support like we did for Jim. If we're, I guess do we
Do we
typically
meet them before? I have no idea.
person, we could invite her.
If we could invite her to our next meeting?
Yeah, introduce herself and get a sense. I noticed in the letter she signed up for 5 different
I know.
city
Oh, really?
groups. So, yeah, that seemed like it was a,
Okay.
tossing a lot of
Maybe we
hats
should
in the ring.
invite her. Maybe we should invite her to the next meeting and that way we can chat with her a little bit. And
Yeah, and ask her, you mentioned you're interested in these 5 things. Tell us about your level of interest and, kind of just
Yeah.
make it comfortable.
I think that's great. That's a good idea.
Will it be easier or better if it's an informal session versus a formal session? Is there any advantage to that?
We're not allowed to really have informal sessions because of open meeting law.
Okay,
We can't, so that, and that's a good, if we have a quorum, then we have to be an open meeting. It's not like the group of us can sit around and discuss anything related to historical commission without being an open meeting.
got it. Okay. I was thinking whether that'd be a lower pressure, exercise.
Probably will.
We're not exactly not a hard nosed group, so.
I know.
One of us could meet with her and then do like a text chain, what you think. One person to the next, to the next, to the next.
That way
I
there's
mean,
no
she's gonna
quorum.
have to go before the Board of Selectmen, so do you think that she'd mind getting on a Zoom and chatting with us?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
How soon, the question is, how soon is the Board of Selectmen gonna then follow up on that letter she sent? Because they
That's
came around to me within like 10 days.
Yeah, oh, that's true. So,
Yeah. All right. So,
And they might co-opt the whole thing by saying, okay, approved for all 5, right?
and they get to a point, it's up to them. So, yes, Vanessa?
I guess we're done.
I just wanted to chime in since I was sitting here. I talked with her, over email this morning, and to your point, Jim, she did put her name in for quite a few positions. So we send a form letter to everyone that applies for a volunteer appointment. We're a little bit behind right now because we haven't had our normal staff in the building, but they are back this week. So we'll be contacting her and again, those kinds of communications go to the chair of all the committees that she applied for. So we'll be chatting with her hopefully sometime this week and trying to find out, what are your real interests? I see that you put your name in for XYZ,
Okay.
do you have a first choice? That sort of thing.
That would be helpful.
And then since we have town meeting on Saturday, we will wait until our next regular meeting, which will probably be the end of June or the first meeting in July, when we elect a new chairman, and then sort of get back to some of our regular business. Like
Okay. So we've got a month before this to take any particular action.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. That's great. That's good information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. Okay. So we've lost Joe, and I don't know if we can adjourn without him, I suppose.
We can't because we're a quorum without him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Go us.
Oh, come on, we should stick around for a minute more.
Yeah.
Is he gonna continue to participate in these, or is this his last one?
He did not say it was his
We
last.
did not.
He didn't.
I think
He
it's,
hasn't resigned.
yeah.
Oh, I thought he put that in last meeting, no?
No, it just says from being the
Just
Chair.
for being the chairman.
Ah.
So we're hoping we
okay.
can just keep him at least involved a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a lot of wisdom that we.
He can chime in here and there, but a little bit of the pressure can be off a little
Yeah.
bit. So I'm hoping that
Yeah.
he'll.
Kind of still need him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have one extra
It
also,
is too.
just in case. There was
Yeah.
a lot of pressure when it was just a quorum. The
It
whole
was.
commission was a quorum.
I remember, yeah, Kate coming to that meeting so sick with that.
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
know. Seriously. I had COVID and I didn't even know it. No, I don't really. I'm joking. But I was so sick. You're right. Remember? Oh,
It'd be like nice that you could stay home or even come remotely if
I
it,
know.
Yeah.
'cause it's not a lot of fun dragging yourself when you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Rebecca,
So
this
I
isn't,
miss going there to that pretty little museum. Boy.
I do too. When will
Yeah, me too. this isn't official business, but, the social evening that we had one time,
I would love to do it.
Yes.
maybe try that again as a combined group between the two organizations, maybe?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, I did invite these lovely ladies. In
Well,
fact,
4 of us can't
Sorry.
be there, though. The 4 of us can't, 4 commission members can't go to
Correct.
that.
Really?
Yeah, we can, as long as we don't
No, we
talk shop.
can't. I don't
can't
think
assemble?
so.
Really?
Jim,
I think we can socialize. They can't tell us we can't go to.
I don't know. Jim Hegarty told me that if I saw you 3 at Morrow's, we can't.
Ah.
Really? Vanessa looks like she's got a plan.
Vanessa,
Jim, Jim would frown on that, but obviously if you bump into each other, at a restaurant or a shop, you're not talking business, you're socializing. But if it's an event organized ahead of time, he would frown on it. But all you would have to do, in my opinion, is you post a meeting, your secretary takes, brief minutes, we met jointly with XYZ, to work on collaborative goals or something. No further action was taken, etc. I think there are, ways to, I don't want to say get around it, but deal with
Mitigate
the open meeting
disaster.
law piece of it in an effort to, work, more cohesively or however.
So Vanessa, are you saying that if we had a 10-minute meeting and a 2-hour social on the back end, that would be okay?
Mhm.
Well, the meeting portion still needs to be posted and
Right. Yeah, of course.
recorded for minutes.
10 minutes officially, close the meeting, everybody sticks around for an hour and a half socially. Is that
but
okay?
that wouldn't be on the town Zoom. See, the last one that I set up was on my Zoom. We didn't
Yeah.
have, just to be clear, we did not have a quorum at that.
Me and Amanda weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously that is the easiest way to avoid any sort of conflict is not to have a quorum. But, if it's something you're trying to do, as a committee, you want a quorum. But I just wanted to make a point that Jim would frown on that, in my opinion.
Okay.
So it is something that needs to be posted in all likelihood, but he's the source on this, so I don't want to speak for him, but that's the guidance we generally are given with events like that.
Hmm.
That poses some interesting dilemmas since 4 of us are on the board of the, oh no, Jim.
But are you talking about the society?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're not a town committee at
Right.
I
all.
understand. No, I meant a
Um,
combined group, Vanessa.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
so
where
they
you learned
don't
before.
fall under open meeting law at all. They don't have any town funding. They don't have to subscribe to, public records law, because they are, basically a private association. So none of that stuff applies to them. It only applies to this group because you're a town appointed committee.
All right, Kevin has to use this office at 6,
Yeah.
so I am,
Gotta go. Sorry, Joe.
I'm
I'm
called for
sorry.
dinner.
Is
Who,
that okay?
yeah, who moves
No.
to
Yeah.
adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Can I
second.
do that, or do you have to do it, Rebecca?
No, you can do it.
All
Anybody?
right, I
can do
move
it.
to adjourn.
I second.
All
Well,
right.
nice to see you all.
It was wonderful to see you.
I
Hopefully,
know, Vanessa, thanks for your help and advice.
Sure.
thank you.
Have a
All
good
right, bye,
night.
guys. I'm sorry I
Thank you.
have to run.
No
All
problem.
right.
You
good to see you.
too.
Thanks for
All right,
everything.
bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Take
Bye.
care.
You still there, Val? Can you unmute?
There we go. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right, so you stopped the recording.
I just- It says live on YouTube still.
So once the Zoom recording has stopped, there's nothing to record on YouTube. I'm just gonna see if I can, let me just go over to YouTube. Actually, the only other thing you would do was, are you still listed as host?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just want to click leave and that will, the next message you may get is end meeting for all, which is totally fine. And let's just Joe, they just adjourned. So
That's okay.
you're off the hook now for the rest of the evening.
Thanks. Thank goodness. Well, good seeing you.
Okay, take care. Hope to see you
Take care.
Saturday.
Let's see if I can remember how to get out of here. We use WebEx.
So that's all you need to do now, Val, is click leave and it will say end meeting for all. And then Tom takes care of the back end on YouTube. But once we end meeting for all here, it forces, to stop the recording on YouTube.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that snap.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Happening.
I think it was just the way you were logging in.
Yeah.
But like I said, we can do another practice if you want another time this week.
All right. Thanks for
All
your
right,
help.
have a good night.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.